We are learning more about Iran's seizure of that British oil tanker in the Persian Gulf. A recording has surfaced of radio messages between an Iranian military commander and a UK warship just minutes before the capture. The exchanges provide new insight into Friday's confrontation and the escalating tensions between Tehran and the West.
236, this is a Separ Navy patrol boat. No challenge is intended. No challenge is intended. I want to inspect the ship for security reason. Over.
Please confirm that you are not intending to violate international law by unlawfully attempting to board the MV Senate.
Rebecca Collard has also been listening to the recordings, and she joins me now from Beirut. So, Rebecca, can you take us through these radio messages in some more detail?
Yeah, Jacqueline. I mean, this is quite significant. These tapes apparently released by a British marine consulting security firm. They put them out this morning, and since then we've been listening and getting really an insight into what happened on Friday before this British flag tanker was taken into Iranian custody. And why don't we listen to a bit more of that tape, Jacqueline?
If you obey, you will be safe. Alter your course 360 degrees immediately. Over.
MV Stena Imperial, this is British warship Foxtrot 236. So I reiterate that as you are conducting transit passage in a recognized international strait, under international law, your passage must not be impaired, impeded, obstructed or hampered. Please confirm that you are conducting transit passage through a recognized international strait. Over.
So it gets a bit difficult to hear at the end there, Jacqueline. But the first part that we hear is essentially the Iranian vessel talking to the Stena Imperial and asking it to change course, saying go 360 degrees off of your course and that you will be safe. And then the second bit of audio is from this British warship, and it's an officer telling the Stena Imperial essentially don't listen, stay on your course. You are in an authorized official international shipping lane, and you don't need to abide by this. And then, of course, we had that first clip that we heard at the top of the show, Jacqueline, which is essentially the British vessel warning the Iranians not to board the British ship. But of course, those warnings were not heeded, and in the end, we had these Iranian troops actually boarding the Stena Imperial. And we had this really dramatic video that Iran's Revolutionary Guard put out yesterday, where you can see these ships surrounding the Stena Imperial, and then this helicopter overhead, and then eventually these troops masked and actually rappelling by rope onto the deck of the ship. So, Iran's line is that this British flag tanker collided with an Iranian fishing boat and then didn't respond to distress calls, and because of that, it had broken maritime law, and because of that, it was taken into Iranian custody and eventually into this Iranian port. But of course, as you mentioned, Jacqueline, this is coming after weeks of the Iranians saying that they wanted to take a British tanker in retaliation for this Iranian tanker that was taken in a very similar fashion by British Marines about 2 weeks ago near Gibraltar. So very, very interesting development, and really interesting to be able to hear these tapes, Jacqueline.
Well, Rebecca, what else are you hearing from the Iranian government? What are they saying about this incident?
So a couple of interesting statements today from the Iranians. Basically, this has been what I just told you, kind of their line over the last couple of days. But a couple of interesting statements. First, from Iran's foreign minister on Twitter, Javad Zarif, calling for prudence and foresight as a way to reduce the tensions, but also saying that this was an attempt by U.S. President Donald Trump to drag the UK into these tensions between the U.S. and Iran. And the second thing that we heard was statements from also on Twitter from Iran's ambassador to the UK, saying that Iran was ready for any scenario, and saying that there were domestic political forces in the UK that were trying to raise these tensions. So that was also quite interesting. And the last thing that we heard was from a British Marine official who said that these 23 crew that were on this ship were safe and in good health. And we do know that the company that owns this ship has requested to the Iranians to visit the ship, and so far that request has not been granted. So we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next few hours and the next few days, Jacqueline.